Rupert and the Wicked Uncle. Rupert's quietly reading his favourite picture book when his mother comes in. "I say, Mummy," he calls, "I do wish all the people I've been reading about were real and not just stories. There's the old woman in the shoe, and Aladdin, and Babes in the Wood, and..." Mrs. Bear laughs and interrupts him. "They are real sometimes," she says. "In fact, Daddy and I are going to show you some of them this afternoon, so run and get washed and put your coat on." As they walk down the high street, Rupert begs his daddy to tell him where they're going, but Mr. Bear only smiles. "Be patient and wait till we get there," he says. "Then you'll find out the surprise we've prepared for you." As they approach the shops, Rupert lags behind. "Why, just look here," he cries. "There are great big pictures of the people in my book." "Yes, most of them are in other towns," says Mr. Bear mysteriously. "But come on, you mustn't dawdle or we shall be late for the opening." Rupert can't yet understand what's happening, but he runs to join the others, and before long they're walking up some wide steps towards a gorgeous building and past some pictures of the Babes in the Wood. "Is this a palace?" whispers the little bear as a tall man in a bright uniform shows them along a corridor and into a tiny room which has one wall missing. Rupert finds himself gazing into a huge space crowded with people. Some just below him are playing all sorts of musical instruments. Rupert wants to ask all sorts of questions, but Mrs. Bear makes him keep quiet. "This is a theatre, and we're going to see a pantomime, so you mustn't talk too loudly," she says. All at once a slight noise makes Rupert turn. The door behind him has opened, and a small boy is peeping at him. The boy beckons urgently and then disappears. "What does he want?" thinks Rupert as he grabs his scarf and follows. "And where has he gone? This long corridor seems to be empty." Rupert goes down the steps. "That boy must have gone this way," he mutters. "But this is a queer place. The trees and the mushrooms seem to be the right shape, but they're all made of cloth or cardboard." He gazes around and wonders if he ought to return to his parents. Then he decides to explore a bit farther. "This is getting queerer and queerer," he says. "Only half the trees are made of cardboard now, the others are growing. I do believe I'm going into a real wood." The wood gets lighter still, and ahead of him Rupert hears voices. In a clearing he sees the little figure whom he's been following. The boy is trying to comfort a still smaller girl who's crying. "Oh, so here you are at last," cries Rupert. "Who are you, and why did you beckon me?" "Don't you know us?" says the boy. "We're the Babes in the Wood, and we need help. We're trying to escape from our wicked uncle. We've run, and now my little sister's almost too tired to go any farther." Rupert's very worried at what he's heard. "You'd better rest a bit," he says. "It seems sheltered and safe here." As he speaks, a distant shout reaches their ears, and the boy turns sharply to peer around a bush. "Oh, there he is. It's our wicked uncle. He's spotted us," he gasps. He grabs his sister's hand and off they go again. "We must keep in the shelter of the trees and hide if we can," says Rupert as they reach a part of the wood where there are lots of great boulders and the bushes are thick. The three friends run out of the wood and find themselves at the foot of a rocky hillside. "Oh dear, I'm too tired to climb that," sobs the little girl. "There's no need," declares the boy. "Look, here's the entrance to a fine cave. It's quite dark and Uncle would never be able to see us." They go inside, but Rupert pauses and gazes at the ground. "Hi, come back," he calls. "You may find more trouble in there. Do you see these marks on the ground? Somebody else has passed this way not long ago." At Rupert's call, the others return and look anxiously at the footmarks. While they pause, they hear muffled voices from far inside the cave. "Oh dear, we're trapped," whispers the little girl. "Somebody in there has heard us. We daren't go in. We can't stop here or our wicked uncle will catch us." Rupert gazes round quickly. "Yes, we can stay here," he says. "See, there are some big jars filled with loose straw. Can't we get in and hide?" "Oh, grand idea," cries the boy. Hardly are the little people in the jars than footsteps are heard rushing along. Peeping out cautiously, Rupert sees that the wicked uncle has gone past and is running furiously down the farther slope. A large man strides from the cave and gazes fiercely around. Then he claps his hands sharply and 2 others run to him. He gives an order in a low voice and they all move towards the jars, tip them sideways and, hoisting them onto their backs, march into the rocky cave. The 3 men carry their burdens carefully through many passages. "I heard voices outside," says the leader gruffly. "There was a grown man running. I liked him not. We must hide these jars of ours. They're valuable to us." They lower the jars gently at the end of an inner passage. "Yes, I too heard voices, but they were young voices," says one. "There is mystery here. Where are they now?" As they move away, Rupert again peeps very cautiously out of the straw. When the men have gone, Rupert screws up his courage, gets out as quietly as he can, and tiptoes around the end of the passage. This must be a magic cave, he thinks. Why is it so light? It ought to be pitch dark. Then he returns to the other jars and calls gently. The babes in the wood have been very frightened, but at the sound of his voice they too climb out. "We're all right so far," whispers Rupert. "We'd better leave the jars and hide in the rocks." The little girl is too frightened to go back in the direction that the men have taken. "Well, let's see if there's any other way out," suggests Rupert. After a while, the boy stops. "This is a weird place," he whispers. "I don't like it. Let's go back to the jars." But Rupert begs them to explore one more passage, and he leads the way. The passage ends in a small cave, which he enters. Then he pauses suddenly. "Come here quickly," he calls. "Just see what I've found." At the sound of excitement in Rupert's voice, the others hurry to him. "What is it?" demands the boy. "Look! Gold and silks and jewels!" cries the little bear. "There must be a huge treasure here." But the girl is already rummaging amongst the pretty things that are strewn around. "Here's a queer ring," she says. "It's too big for a finger and too small for a bracelet. I wonder if it's real gold. It's a strange colour." "Do you like it?" says Rupert. "Then let me polish it up for you and see." Rupert takes his handkerchief and gives the ring a vigorous rub. There's a flash and a cloud of smoke, and from it surges the head and shoulders of a huge figure. The babes in the wood are terrified and scurry behind a rock, but Rupert stands his ground, and after the first shock of surprise, his expression changes. "Why, I know who this is," he cries. "He's in my storybook at home. He's a genie."
"'Tis true, little master," says the genie in a deep voice. "The ring you hold makes me your slave."
Rupert thinks quickly. "Oh, there are lots of things we would like you to do," he says.
"Nay, little master," replies the genie. "The ring is old, and now only gives 2 wishes to the one who holds it, so consider carefully before you speak."
"Well," murmurs Rupert, "what we really need first is to find a short cut from this cave out into the open air."
"So be it," booms the great figure. "Behold, 'tis done."
He waves his arms, and with a noise like thunder, the wall of rock splits from top to bottom. No sooner are the little friends in the open air than the cleft behind them closes with another mighty bang. "Phew! We're well out of that," says Rupert. They seem to have reached a rocky gorge filled with enormous boulders that have fallen from the cliffs above. "Oh, this is as bad as ever," says the boy. "My sister would never have the strength to climb out of this." "Oh, nor should I," sighs Rupert. "But I've one wish left. Let's try again." He rubs the ring, and once more the genie appears. "Oh, thank goodness you've come," says Rupert. "This place is as bad as the cave. Oh, please show us the way to open country with fields and trees." As he speaks, the ring flies out of his hand and is caught by the genie.
"That is your last wish, little master," says the voice. "After this I can serve you no longer. Farewell."
With another flash, the genie and the cloud of smoke vanished, and in their place appears a cheeky little sprite smiling at them from a shelf of rock. The sprite grins at the surprise on the faces of the 3 friends. "So you want to get out of the rocky gorge," he says. "Nothing is simpler. You must fly." "But how can we?" gasps Rupert. "Only do as I do," laughs the other. "Just think about flying and watch me." Rupert and the babes do as he tells them. They spread their arms and find themselves soaring above the rocks into the open country. "There, that's grand," says the sprite as he alights. As Rupert and the babes come to earth, the sprite gives a sudden cry of fright and takes off again. "What's the matter with him?" says the girl, but Rupert points. "It's your wicked uncle," he cries. "Quick, there's no time to lose." Fixing their eyes on the sprite, they spread their arms and are in the air before he reaches them. "Oh, I say, that was a near thing," gasps the boy. "Hi, look at that great shoe down there," interrupts Rupert. "That's the shoe the old woman lives in with her children." Rupert and the babes find to their dismay that their power to fly has gone, and they glide downwards. The old woman who lives in a shoe spies them coming. "Look, we have visitors. They must be special ones, for they come by air," she calls. "Oh, we must make them welcome." Her children run towards the strangers as they alight. "Oh, how lovely! Have you come to play with us?" they cry. "What are your names? Where are you from? How did you manage to fly? Have you had tea?" The wicked uncle has seen what has happened, and he approaches quickly, just as dozens of children are welcoming the new arrivals. Rupert sees him and warns them, but the children laugh merrily, and, taking the babes with them, they run round and round the shoe. The uncle chases them furiously until he gets giddy. Then he throws down his cudgel in disgust. "Oh, foiled again," he growls angrily. "I could never pick them out of that crowd." And he strides away, frowning. Some of the children go into the shoe to make tea, while the others dance round their new friends and sing. Then the three pals tell of their strange journey, and the old woman calls them to her. "I've had a lovely idea," she says. "It's ages since we had any new children here. If you go away now, that wicked uncle will be sure to catch you. Why don't you join us and live here always?" The babes in the wood are overjoyed and cling to her, but Rupert pauses and looks thoughtful. Rupert quickly makes up his mind. "It's very, very kind of you," he says, "but my mummy mightn't like it." Then he stops. "Oh dear," he moans, "how can I get back? Without that sprite I can't fly, and "Don't worry, it's quite easy," says the old woman. "Just make for the nearest bit of woodland and keep straight on." So she and the babes wave goodbye, and he is soon on his way. After a few minutes he gazes round in astonishment. "Surely I've been here before," he mutters. Rupert's right. The real tree and bushes have been left behind, and he is back among the cloth and cardboard scenery. "Well, this is fine," he says. "But how I got here I can't imagine." He opens the door to rejoin Mr. and Mrs. Bear, and then stops. The chairs are empty, and there's nobody in sight. "Gracious, what can have happened?" he thinks. "The show must be over and everybody gone home." Feeling anxious, he runs on down the corridor. To his great relief, Rupert meets his parents almost at once.
"Where have you been? We've been terribly worried,"
says Mr. Bear. "Oh, thank goodness you're safe," adds Mrs. Bear. "To think that you missed seeing the babes in the wood. What a pity." "Missed them?" cries Rupert. "I didn't miss anything. I was with them all the time. Didn't you see me? Oh, let's hurry home. Then I'll show you my picture book and tell you everything that I've been doing."